welcome to this Center Code training video talking about selecting the beta testers appropriate for your test. In this video we're going to go over searching, managing, and macroing your users, including utilizing views and filters to pull up the right list of users, which we covered in the Connect Manager Fundamentals video. We'll talk about adjusting their teams and utilizing macros to do this all in one foul swoop. Now in this video you'll learn how to use user management to filter out your prospective testers, and again we demonstrated views and filters in the Connect Manager Fundamentals video, so by all means if this is something you're still unfamiliar with, take a look at that video, play around with it within your project before you actually start promoting your testers. We're also going to cover how to adjust single user accounts using user summaries and how to automate the promoting testers using macros. So within the Nighthawk beta project, this is part of the launch step. This is finalizing the steps before actual promoting your testers, pulling up the correct list of users that you want to promote, and then going through that action of promoting them and bringing them into your project as full-fledged participants. To start off, we're talking about utilizing user management. Again, filters and views, check out that Connect Manager Fundamentals video. They're used to call up your list of users. You'll utilize the user action for simple activities like emailing a list of users or adjusting their team. You can also utilize macros for more complex functions like emailing the user that they've been promoted, actually moving them from new applicants to full-fledged testers, all in one action. And then we have a couple other options in user management as well that we'll touch on in a moment. Now regarding automating these user management functions, we're actually going to get into more detail a little bit later on, but just keep in mind that you can utilize user macros to perform group actions. So all those single actions that you would normally do using user actions, you can group them all together under one user macro and fire them off all at the same time. You can utilize event-based notice macros, which we covered in the user experience video earlier, or you can actually create time-based scheduled macros, and those are run automatically based on time intervals of hourly to monthly, and we'll discuss those shortly. So to start off, we're going to jump into the Nighthawk project tools. You can see the users tool there in the main body area, also in the left-hand menu. So go ahead and select either one of those, and we'll be taken to the user management page. Now in this case, we're going to talk about actually promoting our testers for this Nighthawk project. Now your actions are going to vary. Yours are going to be different than mine because I'm promoting based on what I need for this particular project. As such, I want to pull up a list of all the users who have taken the application survey and provided a certain set of responses. So I'm going to create a new filter. I'm going to choose the data set of project surveys and the application survey. I'm going to choose the items that I see as criteria for an effective tester. So for in this case, I want them to be fairly familiar with photography. So we'll go 5 and above, for example. And we're going to add that to the filter. I'm also going to choose that they're fairly familiar with taking photos on their phone. Again, I'm going to go with a 5 and beyond here. So select 5 and scroll down, add that to the filter. So I have my two items here. I'm choosing match all because they have to have both of these criteria be matched. I could choose or and say they could either be familiar with photography or familiar with taking photos on their phone. If I want to utilize this filter in the future, I'll save the filter, but in this case I'm just going to create it. Then scrolling down, I have an option to select a different view. So from here, I'll just go ahead with the default view. If there were some more information that I wanted to pull up and view maybe the user's user profile information or test platform information to make sure they have the right kind of phone or something like that, then I could adjust that in the view. And in this case, I'm just going to utilize the action of showing the user list. So in this case, I have these 8 users shown here, and I can select all of these users or I can select only a few. As such, I'm going to select them all, and for example, I don't want my QA person, he showed up in this list. I do have my test user, and that's good. So in this case, I can utilize my actions down here to take action against these users. So I can either use the basic actions, which are one step at a time. So for example, email the users and then add users to the team separately. Or if I scroll down, I have that promote to testers macro that I've created in the past. In this case, I'm actually going to utilize that macro and then select go. Now first it's going to give me a dialog here showing the affected users, so I can view and make sure this is the correct users. Now if you remember, I had 8 users, I only selected 7, so that's being represented here appropriately. As I scroll down, I can review the email that's being sent to these testers and make sure that it looks the way it should and it has the information that I want it to. And then finally, the macro actions there adjusting the team, they're going to be bumped to full-fledged testers and removed from the new applicants team, the accepted applicants team, and the rejected applicants team. So if the users are on any of these previous teams, they're actually going to be removed from them and then added to the full-fledged testers team. So when I'm ready, I'm going to confirm this macro, and those 7 users were effectively promoted. Now while we just used an existing macro, one that we created in the user experience video, we're actually going to talk about how macros are used to automate some functions in user management. So as you just saw, user macros group actions that you would normally take. So emailing user, adding a rank, and then removing them from the project all at once can be done with a single macro, so a single action on your part. That helps to reduce overall friction and make the whole process a bit easier on you as the manager. Additionally, there is other functionality attached to macros, and scrolling down a little bit here allows you to see some of the particular options. So we're going to moderate project user macros in the middle of the activities section. And we're actually going to take a look at these different macros we have here. So the one we just used is the promote to testers macro. Now I can review this macro and make sure that it has all the settings that I want it to, which is a good idea if you're not quite sure what these macros do. Jump in here, take a look at them, make sure they do what you expect them to, and whenever you have them configured appropriately, simply submit your changes. Now in order to create a new macro, you can either do it like we did in the notices video and create it on the fly in the middle of a different process, or you can actually create the macro right here in macro management. So you'll create the macro, you'll apply a name, a short description, and choose your macro options. Again, you have those different options there regarding emailing the user, emailing additional users, a particular team, adding ranks or comments, adjusting their teams, or removing the user completely. You can also show these functions in user management actions and display those to different teams. So once you have that created, simply submit it and it'll show up on that list. Additional functionality comes when we either apply these to notices, like we did in the previous notice video, or utilize macro schedules. And clicking that link takes you to the scheduled macro management page. And from here you can create your new schedule for your macros. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Click on the new macro schedule. And in this case, for my project, I want to actually create a macro that's going to email my testers after they've been absent from my project for 5 days. So to do that, I'm actually going to name this a nag macro. For the description, I'm going to provide a little bit of description for myself. And then from the macro and filter items, I can only choose existing macros and existing filters. So I've actually created a nag email macro. I'm going to choose that one. And so if your macro isn't showing up here, or you don't have a macro that corresponds to what you want to do yet, you have to go back to the previous pages and actually create your macro to use here. For the filter, I actually have a stalled participation filter that I created earlier, and that's the one I'm going to be using here. I can choose from all of my filters or the shared filters that I have set up here. So choosing the stalled participation filter. Scrolling down for the actual schedule itself, I can choose from hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly from when I want this to run. I'm going to choose daily. Since emails are being sent when this particular macro is run, I'm going to choose a time appropriate for that functionality. I'm going to choose 10 a.m. and I'm going to go ahead and let it starting today. So in that case, I'm finished here. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. So you can see there a list of all the scheduled macros in my project. I only have the one, and if I want to deactivate this particular macro for use later, I can do so simply by checking the activate box, or I can completely remove it by clicking the remove icon. So administrating single users, you want to access their user summaries like I mentioned, and the user summary actually represents any data held in the user account at the project level. Now the community scope has its own user profile that includes a bit more information pertinent to the community, but within the project you have all the surveys and notices and things that the users have seen, and you also have a list of additional actions shown on the bottom of the page. Let's go ahead and jump back to our user management and actually going to search for that test account that we had just promoted. In this case, I have a test user down here, and that's the one that I promoted, so I'm going to actually access the test user account. And this is the user summary for that test user. You can see their basic account information. You can review their participation and see how much they've participated in this particular project. Scrolling down, you can also expand their user profiles and take a look at their user profile information, including their customer profile, their About Me. You can review these items by clicking the view icon here. Scrolling down, you can also view their test platforms. And then further, you have their project surveys, so you can review their surveys and the items that they've provided there. If you have moderate access, then you can actually adjust their responses for them. For example, if they put in the wrong answer or something like that, then you can either reset the notice for their survey if it was set as a notice, or you can come in here and manually adjust their settings. Scroll down, you can choose to modify the survey response and adjust their responses accordingly. Taking a look back down at the bottom, you have the option to view their task lists, so you can see their progress in their particular tasks. You can see their agreements, their distributed values, their email log, and you can review the emails that they have seen or have been sent. And finally, you have that team access block. So this is an excellent place to moderate a user's team on a one-to-one basis. So for example, if this user should not have actually been included in the aspiring artist team or the snapshot keeper team, I can simply deselect those items and then re-update the team. Scrolling down just to confirm, you can see that the teams have been adjusted for this particular user. Now the additional activities along the bottom there include assuming the user's identity, emailing the user using your default client, and again that's not through Connect, that utilizes your default client, be it Outlook Express or something of that nature. You can also quickly and easily add a comment or a rank to the user, or remove the user account from the project. And again, that's only from the project. The user account still exists within the community, so if you want to add them back later on, you can do that. So in this video, we covered using user management to filter your prospective testers, to call up the criteria that you're going to use to promote your testers from applicants to full-fledged participants. Additionally, we talked about adjusting single user accounts using user summaries, and in this case, we actually automated the process of promoting and emailing the user, utilizing user macros to do this in one fell swoop. So with that, we've covered all the launch steps and the preparation steps. You should be prepared to go ahead and launch your project, promote your testers, and set things moving forward. We have more videos coming up corresponding to the maintenance tasks, the maintenance steps within your project, so stay tuned.